right, welcome to the Marketing Trench. We are live, and today we're going to be talking about the subject of crafting a killer print strategy with our friend Adam Greer of AG Designs. And full disclosure, right up front, we actually, so Ricardo and Adam work right down the hall from each other, but in addition,
not even down the hall, like literally, I can
like
see him right next door.
in their co-working space, hanging out, having a good time. And actually, Adam is also an employee of my company. So Adam is a man of many talents. He's got his own marketing business, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Is his print marketing company that he has built from the ground up in highly competitive Orange County, California. And this real estate in Orange County, California, probably like many places, but especially
I actually don't want that to be an understatement, Dustin. And I know you were saying you were teeing
it is.
Yeah, you were teeing that up, and I'm sorry I interrupted you. But seriously, I don't want you guys to like undermine its highly competitive market.
Yes. Yeah, and there are a lot of people who offer print services, just like there are a lot of people who offer everything around here. But I mean, you know, when you do real estate in Orange County with the dollar prices that we have here, you're whale hunting in every single part of the country. Like everywhere else, you're whale hunting. And you know, the top players, really the Pareto principle, we've talked about it so many times on this podcast. The Pareto principle really does apply here. The top players get most of it, and all of the vendor servicers like frankly escrow and like print marketing, you know, we're all competing for that top talent's business. So for Adam to be as successful as he is, and he is very successful, his company works with the cream of the crop in our industry here in Orange County. If we were to name drop people who do real estate here in Orange County would know these people. They're the kind of people that brokers say, be more like them. That's who we're talking about. And the reason that we wanted to talk about print, not just with Adam because he's amazing, but the reason that Ricardo and I specifically want to talk about print is because we do talk a lot on this podcast about software, right? Go subscribe to this service, do this online thing, have this digital strategy. Print's been around a long time. It is a proven technology, and it is a technology. Like, we like to think that it's not tech. Print is tech. Print is technology. And it's highly effective if you can do it right. And so we're going to be talking about that. Adam, thanks so much for coming on, buddy. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So let's start, first of all, how did you get started with AG Designs? Let's give people some of the background story here.
Some context.
So I went to college for graphic design. I got my bachelor's in graphic design. While I was there, I was out. I was actually working full time at Home Depot. That's what got me through college.
Yeah.
But I started towards the tail end. I started looking for a job in the industry, and I started putting the feelers out. And a friend of mine had told me about this guy who was starting his own print company. And you know, this was back in 2004, I think it was. And the funny story is, that guy was starting a print company while he was in rehab because the rehab was making him get a full-time job. And he was this entrepreneur, like spirit kind of guy. And so he started a shop. He didn't do graphic design himself, so he had the need for graphic designers, but he did have, you know, the printers and all that kind of stuff already kind of ready to go. This was at the time, it was like before email was even a big thing, you know. So he was originally using, before he hired me, he was using a graphic designer that was like out in LA. And what he would have to do is like drive down there and get the prints from the guy and then drive it to the client, and the client would mark it up, and then he'd either call or drive back. And it was just crazy. And then I was pretty techie at the time too. So when he hired me, we introduced some things like an email platform and all that. And it blew him away. Was with him for 4 years, 4.5 years. His mother was a real estate agent with First Team. And it was so funny because at that time, all the brokerages out there had kind of like an in-house marketing department or in-house like template system, right? And so we instantly stood out because what we were doing is we were giving the agent a unique like brand and look, and then helping them carry that into all of their marketing. So their signs, their business cards, their letterhead and envelopes, their postcards that were mailed out, all of that. And it was so highly desired at the time. that the snowball just grew so fast. I was with them for 4.5 years, and we saw over 400% growth during that time. Every step of the way, though, he would run out and get more overhead. Oh, we need another machine. Oh, we need a bigger facility. Oh, we need more employees to run these machines. And I kind of like, I rode the wave with them. And as we'd get new machines, I'd learn how to like run them and set everything up. And, I was doing all of that. I was ordering the paper, the toner, and, dealing with the techs and doing the design and doing sales. It was crazy. Needless to say, 2008 came, and he was so top heavy. The economy was, tanking, and he had to shut his doors. And I kind of freaked out, like, what am I going to do? Oh, this is all I know. So I started putting my resume out. But at the same time, he was actually forwarding calls to my cell phone from people who were staying in the game and still wanting to do marketing.
Really?
So
did he know he was doing this? Like, he just is like, I want out, but Adam will take over?
Well, he was still taking on a few like accounts himself that he knew were lucrative so that he can collect that check. But like the stuff that was like design heavy and he knew like
not interested.
He would be like, hey, I'm out, call Adam. I got all these people after me for money. So I was out there looking and interviewing and stuff, but at the same time I was getting call after call after call. And I looked at my girlfriend, who's my wife now, and I said, look, I think I have enough to get something started here, like if I just hit the ground running. And so that's what I did. I had this regimen where I would go to, I had a lot of first team agents at the time. Chuck Buscemi, I'll never forget him. He took me under his wing and he introduced me to the guy who ran the show over there, which was Chuck Grant, who also took me under his wing and said, look, this is your office just like it's ours, and anytime you want to come in here and talk to our agents and sell your services and products, we believe in what you're doing. So
it's awesome.
It's awesome.
That was my
core.
Awesome. And it got to be very quickly that like Friday was typically the day that I'd go to their office and I'd deliver everybody's like property flyers that they need and stuff, and I'd collect checks. Couldn't walk into the offices without coming out with like 10 new orders.
I was gonna say without getting stopped.
and then that quickly like started branching out because people would change brokerages or tell their friends, and I was also hustling and hitting other offices and just introducing myself and passing out samples and whatnot. And the rest is history. Been through the leaps and bounds, that been on the roller coaster with the industry, and
been through markets.
Yeah,
like changing markets.
At the same time, been through my own growing pains and stuff like that. All along the way, I've kept the same like foundation. Is my overhead. I don't have machines. That was the first thing I said when I started my company. Is I never want to own or lease or rent a machine. I want to just I know exactly how much the cost of raw goods is to get this off the machine, because I used to order it and print it and cut it and everything, right? And so what I did was I made some strategic connections in the industry with trade printers and stuff like that, and just said, look, I can bring you a volume if you give me this price. And was this 14, 15 years ago, I had a couple people say, sure, we'll try it out. And I'm still working with these same,
awesome.
vendors today, and have since really increased our volume and stuff like that. So I think that's what keeps us alive. COVID came, I'm entrepreneur and business owner. And the first thing I did was freak out. And I'm sure a lot of people did, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
But what was crazy was COVID. We offer photography services and videography services and all of that, and Matterport was something that for years I never invested into, like the camera equipment and stuff like that, because it's so expensive and stuff like that. But I was outsourcing enough of it at the end of 2019 that I said, look, I told my lead photographer, I said, let's pull a trigger, let's buy a camera and take all the profit ourselves, And so we did that. We bought a camera at the beginning of 2020. It was January we bought it. And what carried us through like the very beginning of COVID was like Matterport. There was like 2 weeks where I didn't do one design, I didn't send out one mailer.
Well, the
It was
world stopped, man.
it was simply taking bookings for photography and Matterport services, and it seriously like changed everything for us. We since have bought 2 more cameras, trained 2 more photographers on the system and stuff like that. So it's we're invested now.
Yeah, well, so I don't want to get too far ahead here because you know
Sure.
we're starting to no, you're good. So we're starting to inch into the world of digital, and we're going to get there. But let's talk for a minute about your print side, because print is still a very, very big part of what you do.
So and yeah, before we jump into that, I'll ask this, or I'll say this, I guess. Because I've had a few of Adam's customers ask, and I feel like I get asked all the time. I've been to maybe 5 different conferences in the last 5 weeks. And the question is like, hey, Ricardo, what's new? What should we be focusing on? Should we be doing less print, less old school, and all digital? And I feel like I've always felt like that thinking, or that pattern of thinking, is always a mistake. It's like, stop chasing what's new, what's shiny. It's like, yes, you should be doing those things, but you shouldn't forget about the old school tactics that still work. And I feel like it's not sexy to talk about oftentimes or at times, but a lot of that old school stuff still fundamentally works. And it's the consistency of executing these strategies that fundamentally works.
That's funny you say that. One of my top teams that I recently started working with, they're like, what they put out to the public on social media and stuff, because they know a lot of their competition or other realtors are watching, is they say that door knocking doesn't work, right? It's one of the like the basic steps of farming, right? It's door knocking, and it works so well that they don't want anybody else doing it, you know. And there's so many.
It's a misinformation campaign. You're literally running a misinformation campaign.
It is, and you know, I get that all the time. You know, I'll get somebody who's interested in our services because they see us somewhere, they see their competition using us or whatever, and they'll call me, and that's one of their questions is, isn't print dead? Like, isn't mailing dead? And I say,
what do
go
you
ask
say?
your
Yeah,
competitor. Well, typically it's somebody that is in an area where there is somebody playing that game and somebody is mailing
the dominant player.
And then I kind of defer it back to them. Like, I had one recently, and it was a Laverne agent, right? And I happen to have one of my top teams he owns Laverne. I mean, if you look up the numbers, or if you drive into Laverne any given weekend, like probably 80% of the listings that come up in that city are his sign in front of it. And that's what I told that agent. When the agent called me, he said, hey, I work this area. This is one of my competitors. I know you work with so-and-so, but isn't print dead? And I said, well, I don't know. You tell me. He's not, the agent I work with isn't real tech savvy, where he's not doing social media. He's not doing paid ads or anything like that. All he's doing is print. And we do a mailer once a week in his farm. And I said, so what I want you to do is go drive that neighborhood this weekend and tell me if print's dead. Because I know if he goes and drives that neighborhood and sees all of the signs and whose they are, he knows that print's not dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a strategic. It's one of the, you know, the base or 1, 2, 3 steps that you should be doing as an agent in marketing is you know, print, but just being all over the place, right?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So first of all, is print for every kind of agent, or is print only for an agent that has a really healthy marketing budget and lots of momentum that they can spend?
It's for every agent.
Really good question.
Yeah, it's for every agent. And when I say that is I work with a lot of agents who aren't farming agents. They work with mostly buyers, right? Should they be printing? Absolutely, they should be printing. You're working with a buyer. You have the opportunity to do what's called leverage that sale, right? Once that house goes into escrow and gets sold, you can touch with print and digital, but with print, you can touch every homeowner in the surrounding neighborhood with a just sold postcard, right, or an in escrow postcard. And what that does is that's a right place, right time campaign, so to speak, right? It's people see, right? They see that a sign goes up in a neighborhood and that it's for sale, and then you know a lot of agents miss that opportunity to say, hey, just sold your neighbor's house, got over asking, this house sold for such and such price, right? And as an agent that's representing that buyer, a lot of those agents miss that opportunity because, hey, they represented the buyer, it wasn't their listing, they just, they're on to the next one.
Mhm.
I've changed a lot of my clients' minds, right? We're now strategically, that place sells, it sees a just sold postcard or an escrow postcard, then a just sold postcard, and somewhere small in there it's represented buyer, right? This is a right place, right time, like I said. Now homeowners like, hey, so and so just got 80 grand over asking. That means their house is worth $1 million. Mine's the same floor plan. Is mine worth $1 million? Hey, so and so, I saw you sold this place. Will you sell, if you can get me $1 million, will you sell mine too? Right? That's what that does. It's all about right place, right time. And I think that's what a farming agent wants to do too, is they want to build their brand and then eventually land at the right time so that seller goes, hey, we've been getting your stuff forever, but now it's finally time to sell, right? And we want to use you. We've seen your stuff, right? It's all about that right place, right time. So everybody should be doing print.
Okay, so right place, right time. Let's tackle the new agent, because I'm going to put myself in the new agent's shoes for a second and say, okay, I don't have a ton of money.
I was going to say limited budget.
Yeah, limited budget. So what would you say then? How does an agent do a right place, right time sort of thing with a very limited budget?
So there's opportunity, especially when you're with a brokerage or when you're on a team, right? To be that new agent, with print and with digital marketing, to put it out there or put the perception out there that you're the go-to agent, right? I don't care if you've never done a transaction. If you're with first team and you're with a certain office or you're with a certain team and they have sales that they've recently done, you have full range to take that, leverage that, and make it look like the perception is that you sold that or you're listing that. And guess who's picking up the phone and who they're calling? It's the agent who is on that card or on that marketing material, right? So you have a limited budget, you don't have any sales. I mean, I with limited budgets, it's also about right people, right? Who are we targeting? So researching, working with partners in the industry like title reps who can pull data and make sure that you're not just blasting, let's say, an EDDM to 1,000 homes and it's a bunch of renters and stuff like that. So with that being said, yeah, budget is a big one. New agents are most likely going to be on a budget, and figuring that stuff out ahead of time is important.
I guess let's set expectations there too, though, because with a limited budget, it's like, let's say I have $1,000, and I feel like almost always the expectation is, okay, I'm going to spend $1,000 on this campaign. I run it once, and it's like, what the hell? I didn't get any listings, so that campaign didn't work.
Yeah. That's definitely a big one. There is people, they'll send out one mailer with the expectation that they're going to get, because they're sending out 250 mailers, they're going to get 25 calls at least, and it's not the case, right? It's really not the case. And we try to wake people up in that and educate them, and instead of doing one mailer to, let's say, if you have $1,000 spend, one mailer, instead of going to 2,000 people, I'd like to break that up and go to 500 people 4 times, right? Now you're getting 4 touches out of it, which at the end of the day, the touch is the most important thing, because when mail, right, or a printed piece lands in somebody's hands, the rule of thumb is you get 2 seconds, right, for them to decide whether they're going to keep that or they're going to throw it in the trash, right? And in that 2 seconds, they grab onto things. So in design process, this is something that goes back to the basics of college. Like, we're designing with intent, right? We're designing with hierarchy of information. If you were to look at something for 1 second and pull it away, what do you remember, right? This is the unconscious mind and what that's doing, right? So when an agent is or anybody is touching 4 different times and those pieces are coming from the mailbox and getting thrown into the trash, if all that somebody remembers was the face or the name or the background color or something, then it did its service, right? Because
Yeah.
the next time they see it and the next time they see it and then the sign that comes up in the neighborhood, it all fits the branding, and they're pretty soon they're like unconsciously putting all of that together and going, wow, this agent sells everything in my neighborhood, and there's nobody else I would hire because they know what they're doing, right?
Right.
And
Right.
these pieces could say, I'm the worst agent in Orange County, because they're not getting read. It's
Right.
just it's going, it's being grabbed from the mailbox and being thrown in the trash.
No, that one
I'm
probably
horrible
would get read.
probably, but
If you had that like
I
big bold, I'm the worst agent in Orange County. That's an idea right there. Use that.
I've always wanted to try it. There's an experiment I read about a while back when I was preferred vendor at a lot of like the KW offices, and I was following a lot of Gary Keller's approaches.
Yeah.
He has his 8x8 or his 8-touch approach, and then the 33 after that. There's a company, a marketing company, that a long time ago, I mean, this is probably 20 years ago now, they wanted to do an experiment and test that philosophy, the 8x8, which is the mentality is by the 8th time somebody sees your marketing or your brand is when they'll trust and understand whatever it is that you're doing. So what that firm did was they picked a neighborhood of 500 homes, and then they got a guy's picture out of a magazine and built a real estate brand around it, and they sent something once a week for 8 weeks. And then they went and interviewed as many homeowners as they could, and they just asked them, who's the number one agent in your neighborhood, and who would you trust today listing your home? And over 75% of the people that they talked to said that fake agent because they got his stuff in the mail the last 8 weeks, right? So I've always wanted to do that with this. I'm the worst agent in OC or something, and pick a neighborhood and just send out like beautiful marketing and say just sold. And then under it, in like a little like call to action, say, I'm the worst agent and I do a really bad at the job at selling your house, and just see how many calls it gets, and how many people actually would list with an agent like that.
You guys want to hear a funny? Okay, so this is gonna sidebar for a second, but a funny story about something like this. So years ago, this was probably 10 years ago. Our a company that I used to work for actually did this. They're a real estate company. So what they did was they sent out these marketing pieces, but it was distributed like a letter from an angry homeowner in the neighborhood. And what the homeowner, it was like this, like, naggy Nancy kind of person. And what the person was like,
Karen,
it was a Karen, right? And it was, hey, this brokerage name, we can't let them sell homes. Don't let them list your home because they just sold a home down the street for this price, and it's driving up home prices and making it unaffordable for people to live here.
How funny.
So do not take their calls. Do not talk to them. Join me in boycotting them. Please call my number if you're willing to join my boycott, right? And they sent a couple letters like this. What is like?
I'm writing this down because I'm going to use this on a future marketing piece.
You should. The response was amazing. So they set up a Google Voice. They set up a Google Voice, and they had this like nasally voice actress be the Karen, right?
No way.
And homeowners called them like, "You're out of your mind. This person, I can't believe it. That like, why would you not want our home prices to go up? You're crazy. Stop your boycott." And then a couple of agents in the neighborhood got wise to who was doing this and what this was about. And so then they called and were like, "This is unethical marketing, blah, blah." It worked. It 1,000% worked. And
man,
it does go to show that people actually do read print stuff. And so pivoting away from this. Okay. So you got this 8x8 strategy. There are strategies that you're hitting us with here. And I'm curious, we're talking about crafting a killer print strategy. So you've got the 8x8, but like, what else would you tell an agent about their print strategy? Like, where should it fit in their overall marketing portfolio? What are a couple of things they must do before they actually go and hire someone to do their print marketing for them?
Be educated. So a very, very common mistake in print strategies is an agent coming into my office and going, I want to sell real estate. I want to farm. And I'm finally, I put a little budget aside, and it's my neighborhood and this and that. Okay, cool. What's the turnover? I don't know. Let me go look. Let me find out. Right. Okay. Well, how many homes sold this last year? I'm not sure. They don't know these answers, right? This
Yeah,
is one of
yeah.
the most important things before I go and let a client hire me and I just mail a bunch of postcards, right? I want to know where we're mailing these, who's getting these, what the turnover is, what's the price point of the houses that are in
Why
there.
do you need to know that as a printer? Why do you need to know
Um, because I want them to come back. I want them. I want to see their business grow. That so that they keep coming back because we can mail to anybody, right? But if we're mailing to a neighborhood that has like a 2% turnover and there's only like 7 houses that are going to come on the market in that year, and that there's a dominant agent who gets 6 of those 7, it's not a likely thing, that this agent, because they do a couple mailers, is going to get anything out of it. So they're gonna do a couple mailers or maybe invest in it 6 months to try to get some momentum, but it's not a practical, farm. I like to go into neighborhoods where educated, where we know who the dominant agent is, how many homes come on a market in a typical year, what the price point is. If it's got a decent turnover, if it's got there's not a dominant agent taking most of the listings in there, um, that's where I like to play. Then I can tell that customer, look, let's make a 6 month to a year investment here. Here's how much it'll cost. Here's how many touches we'll get out of this budget, and that's practical. You're going to see a return on investment in here because that's what we're up against,
What
right?
what else would you say goes into like that minimum viable standard? So like I had these agents once that wanted to keep, I want to sell and dominate this farm. But when you look, there was only 5 homes sold in the last year. Like, why would you want to dominate that farm? Who cares?
Right. Yeah.
What
Because
other
they
sort
live
of
there or whatever.
right?
Um,
What other sort of criteria fall into that?
uh, well, um,
Do you go into
SFRs
an do
versus
you
condos or apartments or renters, absentee owners. That's a big game right now where that's who we see, pulling the trigger and listing right now is a lot of the absentee owners. So I have some of my agents have shifted gears a little bit where they're focused on areas that are higher in absentee owners and they're
that?
going after those people.
so
Um,
do you target those areas and just do separate campaigns for the owner occupied versus absentee, or do you
yeah.
do you just go after the absentees?
Both. You want to, if you're farming, you want to hit the people who live there. Plus, you want to hit those absentee owners, right? And we see it a lot where somebody's renting, and you cut them out of the list, but then that becomes a buyer in the next year, right? And all your efforts kind of like are just not even seen because that person's renting, right? So when you're farming, it's important to get everybody, right? EDDM is a great strategy for that, because we're able to kind of just blanket the whole area. But what you miss with EDDM, and this is a common thing in farming agents' marketing plan, is they're missing those absentee owners. They're missing their past clients, right? So one of the first things that I do, and like even the size of the marketing piece is strategic in our book, because we do it where it's minimum size requirement for EDDM, but maximum size to still qualify as a postcard rate, so that we can do one universal print run and make sure that all the EDDM route gets it, but then absentee owners and your past clients are getting it as well.
That's really interesting, and that's a good insight because I could totally see that, right? You get so focused on reaching the masses that you forget to reach the people who, frankly, know you and like you already. And then, like you said, this absentee owner database. What do you think besides that problem with the EDDM? What do you think people get wrong most often about print, conceptually or tactically or otherwise?
Ricardo and I spoke about it this morning. What was you used a certain term, but we had an agent in not too long ago, and I was like, yeah, I finally got everything like all lined up. It's ready to go, and he's like, that's great, but you know that what was the expression?
It was I forget what, I won't repeat what the entire context
Sure.
of the conversation was, but I think what I said to him was, and I forget where I heard it, but consistency versus perfection.
Right. So
And the campaign that'll win 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times over is a consistent campaign versus a perfect campaign.
exactly.
Yeah, another way of saying that is don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Yeah.
100%, like 1,000%. And I think in marketing and print, whatever, we do that to ourselves so much. We're waiting, and maybe it's fear, maybe it's, does this look silly? Do I look dumb?
Mhm.
Does, whatever. I want to wait till this is right. We let that get in the way of just shipping the thing that we need to ship.
Yep. I can tell you, I probably had 5 meetings at the beginning of this year with agents who were interested in farming, have kind of, we've got a lot of this out of the way, the getting educated, know that it's a good area and stuff. And then the conversation ends up being, well, I got to get my new headshot before I can do this. So I'll be calling you. And guess what? Haven't heard from them. Like they get in their own way. And it's like, dude, start that marketing and let's get consistent with it with no headshot right now. If you want to incorporate a headshot down the line, that's a very subtle change that we can do, where people are still grabbing on and making this connection unconsciously that this is you. And now there's a face there, right? But people get in their own way so much with that. Or I need to make 1,000,000 edits before we get this out. I had this team I worked with a while back. I ended up having to let them go because every time we did a mailer for them, it'd be a just sold mailer. That was their strategy, is just sold, which is a great strategy. But it would be, hey, Adam, we have another just sold and we want to come in your office. It was a husband and son, or a father and son team. And we want to come in your office so we can get working on that. I'm like, okay, great. Well, what would help me is if you send me all the photos and info and I can get ahead. And they come in, and not kidding, it would be an hour-long meeting with the two of them standing right behind me, right?
Oh no.
And they go, okay, make that font 1 point size bigger. And then so I do it, and then there'd be this silence, and then I'd look back and he'd go, yeah, that's great. What do you think, son? Like, and it was just this like back and forth of these most minuscule changes, and then finally like an approval. And it's like, dude, I could have got this done and 5 more of those done in 5 minutes. Like,
Right.
I can't believe we just did all that. And it was about a point, the size of a font going up 1 point size. It's like, all right.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love this point about shipping. And actually, Adam, here's another idea, because we can have you print the shirt. Ricardo, we should have a marketing trench shirt that just says marketing trench. You should be up to your neck in ship.
Oh,
those would sell.
With Dustin or Scott just shoveling a bunch of it.
But really, like, that's a great takeaway. You should, with print marketing and marketing in general, you should be up to your neck in ship. Because I have definitely been, I have been there too. By the way, like, not to knock those clients, I have been that guy in the past. And I had a designer like you one time sit down and say to me, hey, Dustin, are you a designer? Like, no,
I don't even want to know.
No, I'm not a designer. Okay, stop telling me how to do my job, or hire somebody else.
Right.
And he said, instead of telling me to make it 1 pixel bigger, tell me what you're trying to achieve.
Right.
So that was actually, I learned that years ago, right? And so if you're listening,
intent.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you're listening to this and you're trying to figure out how to talk to a really good designer, first of all, A, recognize that you're not the designer. B, just say, like, what are you trying to do? So what I'll say, for example, is instead of make it 1 pixel bigger, I'd say, this thing over here seems like it has too great visual priority over this thing over here. Like, this thing is my number one most important thing. Can you make that the number one most important thing visually? And then let the designer do their job, right?
Yep. Yeah. What people don't understand is this week alone, I've probably touched, between me and my team, I've probably touched 500 different, marketing pieces. We know what we're doing. We do this every single day, all day long. I've been doing it for 20 years, every single day, all day long. Same thing when our photographers go in a house, it seems like everybody has a photography background, right? And they want this angle and they want that angle and they want this. And it's like, do you realize that this photographer has been in 2,000 houses this year and has photographed those? And and, and knows exactly what angles and stuff to take so that it gets the most amount of views on the internet when it's in the MLS and lands on the third party sites and stuff like that. Do you know that? Like, there's so much that goes into that. And I know we'll touch on the social media stuff in the future or later on in this conversation too. But that's another thing. It's like, do you know, like, if you're managing your own social media, do you know what the best time to be posting where your target audience is most probable to engage with? No, you probably don't, research that and investigate that like we are, like, or what hashtags to be putting in your posts and stuff like that. There's so much behind the scenes when you do this all the time, every day, that like goes into it. It's more than, just saying, oh, make that point size, that font size 1 point bigger, whatever, like you
two
said.
pixels bigger.
Yeah. That's brilliant. So let's actually talk about this. So where we're at today is digital has taken over, right? So people are talking about the importance of Facebook ads and Google ads. And look, we've got a podcast and we tell people all the time, you should be making videos and you should be putting your content out there. Scott Shang, who's not able to join us today and is our third co-host, right? Like he often says, hey, look, I was able to build my platform by writing on the web all the time, right? For years and years, I would write 2 to 3 articles a week, whatever. I don't even remember, some guy. But point being, we are in this digital age. I'm curious, Adam, you guys do offer stuff for digital. How do you see print and digital coexisting? Where can they play off of each other? Like, help me now help our audience that is very digitally minded.
Yeah. Great question. So coming into this year, 2020 was AG Design's best year ever in my career, right? All print. I mean, with the exception of we offer property marketing. We do photography, videography, aerial photography, property websites, stuff like that, right? But that's as far as digital goes. And at the beginning of this year, I sat my team down and I said, look, we need to get out of the dinosaur ages. We need to get on the digital side of things. And by that, I mean, we're going to build a social media management product for our clients. They said, cool, why? And I said, I have this vision. We have so many of our clients who are mailing on a consistent basis to their farm, right? That's how they're wanting to get in and become the go-to agent in the neighborhood and stuff like that by mailing. And when I sell a campaign, 8-touch campaign or a whole year campaign, when I sell them, I tell my clients, this shouldn't be your only avenue of marketing. Don't rely on just this. We are doing the set it and forget it, so you can basically just keep going on with what you're doing and your.
But it should never be you should never have one avenue. You should never have one fishing line in the water.
Exactly. So I said, what I want to do is fulfill the rest of that. What else should they be doing, right? And I went to social media because that's been such a great thing for my company. I mean, I have accounts all over the United States because of our Instagram page. I know agents who all they do is email blast once a month to a specific list of people, and they do really well, right? So I wanted to put my clients there too. So it goes hand in hand with this kind of scenario of mine. This was what I had in mind when I built this product. It was homeowner comes home from work and they go to the mailbox and they grab, realtor A's postcard out of the mailbox, and it says just sold in your neighborhood, got over asking price, right? And again, you get the 2 seconds and then they throw it away, right? Oh, neighbor got $1 million for their house. Cool, throw it away. Later on, that same guy is sitting on the couch and he's scrolling his Instagram feed or his Facebook feed. Guess who pops up with another just sold, right? Same agent, right? So that's what I wanted to do, is I wanted to put my clients tangibly in the mailboxes and digitally or virtually on social media, right? And so that's where we're at. That's what we
it creates that feeling that this guy is everywhere.
Everywhere. that's what you want, is you want to be the agent or whatever it is you could be a plumbing company, but you want to be everywhere, right? You want people to just know that name and that be the household name of, in this case, real estate in that neighborhood, right? And you could do that with perception. Perception is everything. So again, I talked earlier about using like somebody else's just sold that's at your brokerage or on your team or whatever. Is if you do that enough, right, and each one is a little bit different, and they're seeing you in the mailbox and they're seeing you, on your social media, and it's just sold, just sold, just sold. People react to that. People believe it, and they say, "Wow, this agent is just selling everything in the neighborhood," right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's interesting. So you're envisioning a world where I mean, I was going to say, you're envisioning a world where print and social really help to create this 360 wraparound. But I love the vision because this is how we live. It's just totally in line with how people live, right? We do live physically. We get our mail, even though most of the time we just toss most of the mail. We still we sell a physical house, right?
Yep.
We live in physical neighborhoods. We see physical signs, just sold, and all the rest. But yeah, we also spend no small part of our real life experience online, scrolling, and online is really a sense maker for us. Where the physical world, I think, helps us to I mean, it's where we live, and the physical world gives us a sense of things. We feel like we get a broader sense of the world, and I guess bigger truths, like meta truths about the world, online. We see more, like we see what's happening with our friends in different parts of the country, for example, or we hear the news about what's happening with our nation. And so the local is small, the digital is big. You're touching both. You're saying, hey, look, this person is local to your life, but also they are a big player in your space.
Yeah. And one of the mentalities too, with this being said, is and one of my focuses on every piece of marketing that I do, whether it's digital or it's print, is I want to bring the people, and the term is, I want to bring people from the streets to the web. So with that is when we're landing with postcards in the mail, we're QR coding the people, or adding QR codes so that the people know how to get in contact and connect with that same person online. When you're online, I have the proper forms to, hey, join my mailing list. And then now you're bringing them to the street. So you're, again, just putting yourself all over the place, right? It's such an important strategy to be everywhere. I talked about touches. Touches are everything. I can take an agent that's brand new and within a matter of 1 month have more than 8 touches, which, remember that story I told you? It's 8 times is when somebody trusts and understands
eight
whatever
times
it is
equals
that you're
success,
doing.
baby.
Exactly. And consistency is just everything in it. So it's touches.
Let's talk about budgets. So we've got, like, if you're talking to an agent, what sort of budgets do you recommend that agents have before executing on a print strategy? And then also, what kind of budget do you recommend agents have before executing on a combo print digital strategy?
$1 billion.
$1 billion.
So my whole goal, and I have one of these meetings with actually one of your buddies, Dustin, that you referred me to early next week. And
Oh, nice.
my whole goal is that it's where are we targeting? How much is in your budget? How much do you think you could put aside for this, right? And what I do with that is I say, okay, well, I want this agent to be consistent for 6 months, right? And I want to pre-do everything so that it's set it and forget it for them, for me. So it's a 6-month budget. But that could be if agent is their strategies to hit people who they make over 200 grand a year, or they're focusing on. I have some clients that make over 400 grand a year, and they have a list of 200 people that they mail to, but it's 200 important people, right?
It's
And
VIPs.
have portfolios and stuff like that. I want to hit somebody that has a portfolio of over 40 million, right? And now you're strategically hitting this person over and over again, right? And you never know. Maybe they just did a deal with the agent that they've used forever that they trusted, but that guy got sick or that guy really messed up a deal and lost them a bunch of money and they're shopping, right?
Right.
Now all of a sudden that agent's right place, right time, has been consistent, right? So setting budgets is important. The most important thing of it is how can we spread that budget out to give you a 6 month to a year plan and pre-do all of that stuff so everybody's successful. In my career, I mean, it's like I said, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I've had thousands of meetings, and typically they're end of year or beginning of year where agents like, I want my marketing just done next year. And up until the last couple of years, I've never had anything like that. I've never had where, okay, great, here's going to be your plan. Here's the days that we're going to hit. Here's the media that we're going to use, right? It's always been, I've been we can set the days and I'll remind you on that day that, hey, you wanted to touch your farm this month or this week or whatever it is, but what's been missing? Content's been missing. We don't know what to send. Well, I don't really have anything. And you know what? I got 2 listings right now that I'm just really busy. So let me go get those sold and then we'll have this again. And all of that falls off and it's not consistent. So my goal and where I've made a shift in the company is pre-doing a lot of that, right? We set up marketing in sets of 8. No, it's a magic number, right? It's 8 touches, right? And so with that being said, we have systems behind the scenes that we pre-drop in the 8 and pick the frequency and the starting date, and it auto calculates what days are going to go out next, and then it takes all the variables out of it. Notification goes off. My driver comes in, takes it to the post office. My social media manager posts to the socials and puts in the proper hashtags and stuff, and everybody's just set up for success at the very beginning like that.
Well, how do you solve the content problem?
Years ago, I built a program called the Running Start. Running Start was an 8-touch campaign. I wrote all the content for. It's really generic. It's made for essentially an agent who is brand new or an agent that just doesn't want to think about what they have to put out. And
which is to say most of us.
Yeah. And what I did when I wrote the campaign was just at the very beginning, the first half, I'm fishing out potential sellers by making them ask the agent questions in the call to actions. And then the second half of the campaign, I'm pushing those people over the fence by now's the time. Here's why now's the time. And here's why you need to hire me. Right. So that was very successful for us. I was selling that campaign, the Running Start, only to one agent per EDDM route, right? Because it would look really dumb if 2 different agents or 3 different agents bought the same
5 agents in the same
they all have the same content, right? I sold almost every single carrier route in Huntington Beach within 3 years.
Wow.
It was very good. Now, what I've done since then is I've done a lot of research on perception, right? And what that does and how it works with the unconscious mind and stuff like that. So we've really shifted gears, and I can build and commonly do this is I build an 8-touch just sold program. And, first question is I don't have 8 sales. Cool. Do you have 1? Yeah, I have 1. But it was in a way different,
That's awesome.
area. I want to farm here. Great. Let me take that 1, right? And let me farm here in this price point. And all we're going to do is we're going to put out 8 different pieces that say just sold. They're all the same exact house. I'm not using the front of the house because people here will identify that this house isn't in their neighborhood. And I'm changing it. First one has a living room picture. Next one has a kitchen picture. Next one has a, dining room picture. Next one has a backyard picture. Now, when those go out, multiple drops, let's call them 2 weeks apart. By the 8th time, these people that are receiving these cards think that you sold 8 different houses. You're not saying that. You're not saying this is another, seller. It's saying sold, right? Did you sell it? Yes. Is it in their neighborhood? No. Did you sell 8? No, I sold 1. So I mean, it's perception, and perception is everything.
Right.
And so a little bit easier on the digital side of things with our social media product. We are able to do that we build and a lot of thought went into this. I didn't want to have to come up with content for social media for 50 different agents. And so what we did when we built the social media management product is, first of all, we had to become IDX approved. And what we did was we built a neighborhood website for the agent specific to the neighborhood that they're trying to farm in. And we have the IDX feed of everything that's happening in that neighborhood. Now, guess what? Content is fed every second, right? Fresh contents. This house goes from in escrow to sold. That's my next social media post. I say just sold in whatever city it is or whatever neighborhood it is. And I say put the address, and I put 2-bedroom, 2-bath, whatever. You're not saying I sold it, right? It's perception to your social media audience that you're busy, that you're active, that you're selling houses, and they're in this neighborhood that you're marketing to. And that's what we're doing with that.
That's a very, very cool idea. I love that. Very creative. Yeah. And I think it speaks to something too. It goes back, you should be up to your neck in ship, right? Like it goes back to this fact that we all overcomplicate everything. You know, it's like, okay, if I'm going to do 8, I got to have 8 houses I just sold, or I got to say 8 like totally, completely unique things. And you're saying, no, like you can leverage a small number of things many different ways. And at the end of the day, it's more important that people just get your stuff in their hand than it is that you necessarily have, genius you have poured forth into every single thing you've shipped out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, we're rounding the corner here. We got to wrap up here pretty quickly. But before we do, I'm curious to know, what do you think the future of print is? Especially if you're, actually, I don't think it necessarily matters if you're a new agent or if you're an experienced agent. But if you're an agent and you want to have a long-term career in this industry, what is the future of print?
It's got to be there. It's got to be part of the plan, just like all the other pieces of that puzzle. The print has to be one of the steps that you're taking, right? It's got to be in the budget, and it's not going anywhere. It's always going to be credible. Years and years ago, somebody scared us and they said, hey, I know you guys do a lot of mailing, and emails become this thing, right? And people aren't going to get mail anymore because they got email, and it's easier for people to send and receive, and it's not going anywhere. It's been 20 years, just like, I think when I was working with a bunch of the first team agents, there wasn't the social media, and there wasn't the websites and all the digital stuff that we have now. There was farming. It was door knocking. It was putting on community events. It was mailing. It was, all the above. That stuff still plays such an important role. And go ask some of the top teams. Go ask any one of the top teams. I mean, you had mentioned earlier that I work with a lot of the top agents in Orange County and stuff like that. Guess why? Because it works. Right. They're coming to me on a regular, daily, weekly basis saying, I got 25 calls at a last mailer, right? And I want to, or I got a listing out of this last mailer. I want to do another one, right? Or this neighborhood's hot, and I did this just sold, and I'm listing the one on the same street now. It freaking works, and that's why we have a place here, and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. And at some point it would be fun maybe to get you back on. I would love to talk more about how you guys design your stuff and, the beauty side of it.
That's a whole conversation.
It's a whole other conversation. And unfortunately, I don't think it translates quite as well over podcasting in specific, but, it does matter, even with the just ship mentality, it does matter how things look and feel. And Adam, your team is really, really great about this. One of the reasons that we work with you, right? because I respect how you guys lay things out and how, just your whole strategy. It's really fantastic. So,
and
thanks
if you
for-
would buy a Just Ship shirt, then let us know so that Adam can get started on the design.
That comes from
up to your
when
neck
I
and
was
ship.
Up to your neck and ship.
Yeah.
When I was in college, one of my professors, when I got this job in the industry and the focus started to be the real estate marketing, one of my professors had told me, "Oh no, don't get into real estate marketing. It's so cheesy, and there's no money to be made, right?" And I kind of like have always like held on to that, and I wish I could like see him today and like, "Oh, really? Like, look at what we've done with this. Like, it's not cheesy. Nothing we're doing is cheesy. It's I mean, up to some of these agents, you would think that it was like a Hollywood like production now on some of the homes that they're like doing videos at and stuff like that. And then the marketing is like, it's better than some of these like cologne and perfume companies that spend millions of dollars on ads and stuff like that. Like what we're doing is staying ahead of it, staying on top of trendy designs and what goes on and stuff like that, and putting that into our work, right?
Yeah, no, that's such a good point because our industry, there is a cheese factor, 1,000%, and it will be even cheesier when you buy your marketing trench up to your neck. But at the same time, this is a high turnover industry in terms of content. We do have to be on the front edge, because we are selling product on the regular. We're hitting different markets all the time, and people want to see new things. It's not like we just lay out. We have like a 9-month dev window and we deploy one super amazing Super Bowl ad and then a couple of, follow-up ad. Like we're doing a lot. We're doing it regularly. And, we've had to learn a lot of lessons along the way. And so, that's such a good point. And you guys really, you have taken the professionalism to another level, despite my up to our neck and shit. So, yeah. So Adam, thanks for coming on. Where can people find you if they want to follow you on Instagram or reach out to you, potentially work with you?
Sure. So we're at AG Designs Inc. on Instagram. agdesignsinc.com is the website.
That's INC, not INK.
INC, correct. Yes. And then phone number 714-900-3605.
Awesome. So that's how you can reach Adam and his team. And like Adam said, he works with agents all throughout the United States. So just because he happens to be located in Orange County doesn't mean that you can't work with them wherever you're located. And that includes photography and stuff as well, right?
Photography is only local.
Okay.
All of our print products are anywhere. We do have production facilities all over the United States, so there is no lag time in shipping and anything like that. Production stays the same, and our turnaround time stays the same, whether you're here or you're in New York.
Perfect. All right. And if you want to listen to more podcasts and great interviews like this, you can go over to ricardobueno.com. You can follow his subscribe to his newsletter, follow his other podcast.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, he does okay.
I do okay.
So check him out.
Okay from time to time.
Check him out, ricardobueno.com. Our silent partner today, Scott Shang, you can find him over at findmywayhome.com, where he is offering amazing insights and valuable services for mortgage professionals in our industry.
He's all right.
And today, I actually just had an email from a client saying, "Hey, Dustin, I want to figure out how much my clients are going to have to pay for their escrow and what their closing costs will be and how much cash they'll walk away with if they sell their home." Good news. You can go to lighthouseescrow.com, scroll down a couple scrolls, and use our free closing cost calculator estimator to find out how much. Of course, our fees are exact, but you can find out how much your clients will probably pay in title fees and various other taxes and fees. And so you can put together that net sheet on the fly, play with the numbers, hit the numbers your clients want. LighthouseEscrow.com is also where you can find my team. If you are buying, selling, or refinancing a home in California, we would love the opportunity to provide services to you. That's LighthouseEscrow.com. And of course, finally, if you're listening to this on the podcast or even if you are over at YouTube, we would love to increase our YouTube subscribers, get that fancy vanity URL. So please go over to youtube.com, look for Marketing Trench, like and subscribe. That would be hugely amazing. Okay, guys, we're coming up against time. So until next time, this has been the Marketing Trench.
Yeah.